Defy the system. How authentic voices create revolutionary change. Thank you all for being here today. I'm deeply honored to stand before you to share insights that have fundamentally transformed my understanding of influence, innovation, and impact. These revelations came through my recent profound conversation with LaCenia Cheek, a visionary whose work is shattering conventional wisdom about representation and authentic expression in creative industries. LaCenia isn't just a thought leader, she's a force of nature. Her groundbreaking approaches to empowering marginalized voices have created ripple effects across multiple industries, touching thousands of lives. What makes her truly extraordinary is her ability to see potential where others see barriers, to envision pathways where others see dead ends. She embodies the very essence of what we'll explore today, the revolutionary power of authentic expression. What struck me most during our conversation was LaCania's unwavering conviction that true innovation and lasting influence don't come from following established paths. They emerge from those brave enough to forge entirely new ones, often against tremendous odds. This insight directly challenges how most of us think about success, especially in creative fields. We live in a world obsessed with formulas. Follow these 10 steps to success. Mirror this person's journey. Replicate this proven method. But what happens when the established pathways weren't designed with you in mind? What happens when you look toward the pinnacle of your industry and see no one who resembles you? What happens when the system itself seems designed to exclude your voice? This is the reality for countless Black professionals across creative industries. The conventional wisdom suggests waiting your turn, paying dues within systems that weren't built for your success. But LaCania's insights reveal a profound counter narrative. The most transformative impact often comes from those willing to step outside traditional roles and expectations, especially when they don't see themselves represented at the top. This isn't just inspirational rhetoric, it's a practical approach to creating change that has been demonstrated time and again by trailblazers who refuse to wait for permission to make their mark. Consider the journey of Lex Luger, a Grammy winning Black record producer who co founded 808 Mafia and pioneered an entirely new sound in hip hop. Early in his career, Luger faced significant skepticism. He was young, his approach was unconventional, and perhaps most challenging, there was virtually no mainstream representation for young Black producers using digital tools as their primary instrument. The traditional path would have required Luger to apprentice under established producers, gradually working his way through a system that might never fully recognize his unique vision. Instead, he chose a different approach. He focused on building an online presence through platforms like MySpace, sharing beats directly with artists instead of waiting for industry gatekeepers to grant him access. Growing up in Virginia without major industry connections, Luger taught himself production software as a teenager before connecting with other aspiring musicians online. This self directed approach might have seemed risky, even foolhardy, to those invested in conventional paths to success. But the results speak for themselves. Luger's innovative style led him to produce chart topping tracks like Rick Ross's BMF, influencing an entire generation of producers. He co founded 808 Mafia, produced multiple platinum records, and is widely credited with popularizing trap music's modern soundscape. More importantly, he inspired countless young Black creatives worldwide by demonstrating that digital self promotion could bypass traditional barriers into the music business. This story exemplifies the first key insight from my conversation with LaCenia Cheek. Your unique voice is your greatest asset. Don't be afraid to express yourself authentically. Your perspective can drive real change. But authentic expression alone isn't enough. The second key insight from our interview was equally powerful: collaboration multiplies impact. Building alliances with others who share your vision accelerates growth and opens new opportunities. To illustrate this principle, let's examine the remarkable journey of Issa Rae, who emerged as one of Hollywood's leading voices by creating the Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl web series before transitioning into mainstream television with Insecure. Ray faced limited opportunities for nuanced portrayals of Black women on screen. Networks were hesitant about her vision due to its non traditional narrative focus. The conventional path would have been to continue auditioning for stereotypical roles while hoping for incremental change within the system. Instead, Ray leveraged social media platforms, specifically YouTube, to build her own audience rather than waiting for approval from established studios. Her authentic storytelling resonated widely online, creating a community of viewers who saw themselves reflected in her work. What's particularly noteworthy about Ray's approach was her commitment to collaboration. She didn't just create content, she built a creative ecosystem, working with other talented individuals who shared her vision for more authentic representation. This collaborative spirit amplified her impact far beyond what she could have achieved alone. The web series' viral success eventually led HBO to greenlight Insecure, which became critically acclaimed while breaking ground on representation both behind and in front of the camera. Frustrated by stereotypical casting calls after college, Ray had decided her only option was self production, writing scripts based on real experiences within her community. Her accomplishments now include multiple Emmy nominations, the launch of Hooray Media, supporting diverse creators, and recognition among Time's most influential people. The show changed perceptions about what stories could succeed commercially while empowering more creators from marginalized backgrounds. This brings us to the third key insight from my conversation with LaCenia Cheek: resilience breaks barriers. The willingness to persist despite lack of representation or recognition sets leaders apart. Few stories demonstrate this principle more clearly than that of Morgan DeBaun, who founded Blavity Inc., now one of America's largest media companies serving Black millennials through original content, events, and community building. Devon faced dual challenges: a lack of culturally relevant media platforms reflecting diverse professional journeys among younger audiences, and limited funding access as a first time founder compared to peers from more established backgrounds. The conventional path might have been to work within existing media companies, gradually building influence while accepting the limitations of those structures. Instead, DeBond sought out angel investors aligned with her mission, built Blavity using digital first strategies, and empowered other Black creators by offering platforms for their work. As a tech consultant frustrated by the lack of representation in mainstream media, she left her job to launch Blavity in 2014 out of a small apartment with friends. What's remarkable about Devon's journey is not just her initial courage in launching the platform, but her persistent resilience in the face of obstacles. Building a media company from scratch is challenging for anyone. Building one that explicitly centers Black voices and experiences in a media landscape that has historically marginalized those perspectives requires extraordinary determination. Devon grew Blavity from a blog into a multi brand media company with millions of monthly users and high profile partnerships. She raised over $11 million in venture funding, hired a dozen size team, and built brands like Afrotech and 2190 under Blavity Inc. as umbrella. Her work set a new standard for digital media ownership among Black entrepreneurs and inspired others pursuing non traditional routes into scalable businesses. These three stories, Lex Luger, Issa Rae, and Morgan DeBaun, illustrate the core insights from my conversation with LaCenia Cheek. But they also point toward a larger truth about transformation and impact, that the most significant changes often come not from those working within established systems, but from those brave enough to envision and create entirely new ones. This perspective challenges our conventional understanding of influence and change. We often assume that real impact requires a formal authority or institutional power. But these stories demonstrate that authentic expression, collaborative spirit, and persistent resilience can create pathways where none previously existed. The equation is deceptively simple: words plus passion equal sign impact. When you speak your truth with conviction and back it with persistent action, you create ripples that extend far beyond your immediate circle. This isn't just true for high profile creators and entrepreneurs. It applies equally to professionals at every level who are navigating spaces where they may not see themselves represented. Your unique perspective isn't a liability, it's your greatest strength. Your willingness to build alliances with others who share your vision isn't a compromise, it's a multiplication of your impact. And your persistence in the face of obstacles isn't futile, it's the very force that breaks down barriers. In my conversation with LaCenia Cheek, one theme emerged repeatedly: that transformation doesn't always come from the top down. Sometimes, perhaps most times, it builds from the ground up through the collective efforts of individuals who refuse to accept the limitations of existing structures. As Maya Angelou powerfully stated, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. The professionals we've discussed today, Luger, Ray, DeBon, and indeed LaCenia Cheek herself, have refused to bear that agony. They've chosen instead to express their unique perspectives, build collaborative communities, and persist through obstacles to create new possibilities, not just for themselves, but for countless others who will follow their paths. So today, I'm not just asking you to admire these stories from a distance. I'm challenging you to join this revolution of authentic voices. The world doesn't need more people who fit neatly into existing systems. It needs more disruptors, more visionaries, more individuals willing to stand in their truth and create spaces where others can do the same. What would happen if you stopped waiting for permission? What would happen if you embraced your unique perspective as your greatest strength? What would happen if you built alliances with others who share your vision? What would happen if you persisted despite every obstacle placed in your path? I believe we would see nothing less than a transformation of our creative industries, our workplaces, our communities. We would see new pathways created where none existed before. We would see authentic voices rising to challenge narratives that have silenced and marginalized for too long. This isn't just about individual success stories. This is about collective liberation. This is about creating a world where no one has to diminish their authentic self to succeed, where collaboration trumps competition, where resilience in the face of systemic barriers is recognized and celebrated. The revolution begins with your voice. It begins with your willingness to speak truth, to build community, to persist against all odds. It begins today with the choices you make when you leave this room. Will you continue to follow established paths that weren't designed for your success? Or will you be brave enough to forge new ones? The future is waiting for your answer. And I, for one, can't wait to hear what you have to say.